Welcome to the first ever official episode of the Unlocking the Door podcast. I'm your host, Alex Hunter. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to be talking about generally success in real estate, in business, in life, overcoming adversity, and being able to triumph regardless of whatever is thrown in front of you. And so I'm super stoked to have one of my biggest mentors in business and in life, Bryan Casella. What a great way to start this first episode, especially because this dude has been encouraging me and everybody who is any one of his students to do a podcast. I've been talking about this the last 2 years, and now it's finally happening. So, Bryan, for those who don't know you, which is probably going to be about half my audience, the other half already follows you. For those who don't know you, who are you? What do you do? What are you about? What are you about, and what would you like to share?
Thanks for having me, man. It's cool to see you finally launching this thing, bro. I know it's been a long time in the making, right? Yeah. So Bryan Casella, 37 years old, from Southern California. I live in Miami now. You know, growing up, I was a basketball player. I was a basketball nut. I played overseas after dealing with injuries and having my career in athletics cut short. I decided to get into real estate. And when I got my license in 2013, you know, I started kind of grinding and doing the typical stuff that most people do. I just happened to hit it a lot harder than most people, and I was documenting the process. And here we are today, 10 years later, right? Coaching platform. I own like 10 investment properties. My real estate team was fucking crushing it. So it's just really been a testament of doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it over a long period of time, and, you know, reaping the fruits of my rewards after all this time, you know?
So when you say long period of time, how long have you been doing this now? You said 10 years?
10 years. August of this year, bro, is 10 years that I've had my real estate license.
Wow, that's epic. Now, back to your basketball career. When you first started in real estate, something I always think about is whenever anybody achieves anything great, usually there's something that happened to them beforehand that threw them into that, or there was an adversity they overcame even in their early years. And for me, from what I know of you, it seems that having that injury, not being able to be the professional basketball player that you were looking to be, and then having to change direction, seems to be a really, really pivotal point in what made you become where you are now. So tell me a little bit more about that, how going from basketball to real estate was for you, what made you decide to do it, and what was your thought process in the meantime?
Yeah, man, it was tough because, you know, in my mind back then, I felt as if internally that my dream was being taken away from me because I had grown up fantasizing about playing in the NBA. You know, I'm kind of knocking on that door because I'm starting to play in Europe professionally. And, you know, I started when I was 22. So I was like, man, I got, you know, my whole career ahead of me. This is great. And I'm striving for greatness, you know? So having that taken away from you is tough, bro. There was a tough period before I decided to get into real estate where I was down in the dumps mentally. And really the only thing that clicked for me that I think a lot of people struggle with is I started looking at just life in general and saying, man, I think it's pretty pathetic seeing the people who talk about high school and college when they're 35, 40, 45, 50, 60, right? I don't want to be one of them. Yes, can't play basketball, whatever. I'm only 25, you know, like I'm only 24, 25. I got my whole life ahead of me. So I actually ended up working with one of my uncles in South America for like a year and a half. A lot of people don't know that before I came back to the States. So, you know, I was living a pretty good life there, relatively speaking. At least for like a third world country standard, right? Had my own place, my own car. I can go out, mess around with as many girls as I want, in quotes, living the dream. But I realized, I was like, you know what? This isn't it. This is fun. This is cool, but it's like a phase. Time to go back to the States and really get my shit together. And when I came back, all I did was I took that switch that I had for basketball, obsess about it, think about it all day, work out all day. And all I did was I said, okay, I need to find something to transfer this to. I knew I wasn't going to get a job. I knew I was going to start my own business, and I just started exploring. And eventually when I landed on real estate, I said, okay, it's all in, right? It's fucking all in. And that work ethic and dedication and same spirit that I took to athletics, I just transferred over to real estate, and I gave it my all. And it wasn't, and I want to make this clear, I wasn't passionate about real estate. I just knew this was the vehicle to help me become the person I wanted to be. And then that first initial goal was money. I need to get my money right. And I knew real estate was a good vehicle for that, man. It's just when I attacked it, I just attacked it with a different ferocity than most people do, because I came in wanting to be number one and slay all the dragons and demons and other kings and just conquer. And I think a lot of people, instead of applying that mentality, they're like, well, you know what, Alex, I'm just going to try it out and see how it goes. And they have like this hopeful mentality compared to mine, which was, okay, I'm coming in this world and like, I'm going to be a figure here very soon because people are going to find out very quickly who I am. And I think that tenacity is what people miss, because when you tie success in what you do to the person that you're going to become and what you're going to achieve and the vehicle at which you do it, which in this case is real estate, and you make that connection, it becomes very easy to attack it if you really want what's on the other side of that, you know? And I just think a lot of people are so disconnected from themselves that they really don't know what they want. And I want to make this clear. I don't like out there, oh, you need to find yourself. It's like, no, dude, you never lost yourself. There's a presupposition there you lost yourself. You just disconnected from yourself because you're so much on your phone and viewing other people's lives and what they've accomplished and what they want, that you've lost touch with who you are and where you want to go. And when you do that, dude, it becomes very easy to grab something like I did with real estate and just hit it hard, because ultimately that's the video game that you're playing, is the video game of you and your own life. You might as well maximize it and get to level 1,000,000, you know? And that's just the mentality that I took, dude. And I think as simplistic as it sounds, it really was that simple. And I just wanted to hit it hard and get to where I'm at today. I already saw where I'm at today years ago, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I love the video game analogy. I've often applied that to my own life since a teenager, you know, and every time there's a new level of your life, you're leveling up, your avatar gets a new package. When it comes to all these people who are, you know, maybe not even trying to find themselves, but just trying to find purpose, trying to plug into something that works for them, and trying to really enhance their careers. You know, I know that you plugged into this very quickly. You took the same principles, as you said, from the sports field into here now. What advice would you give to a lot of these people who maybe are lost, who don't really have that veracity, but know they have to do something? And, you know, again, real estate was not your passion, but you made it an amazing career. What advice would you give to people who maybe are a little out there and they're not in touch with themselves, as you were talking about?
Yeah, the first one is this, man. You got to focus on yourself, you know, like, especially in this era, people spend more time watching other people's lives than focusing on their own. I'll repeat that. We spend more time focusing and watching other people live in their lives than on our own. I never did that in the beginning. I was focused on me. What do I want to do? Okay, I'm going to buy the books and study. My first recommendation is stop watching YouTube and fucking listening to podcasts 24/7, right? Pick up books and read some fucking books, right? That's the first one, is you need to explore from an education standpoint and learn more about life in general, right? Because we'll speak in general here, right? Number two, in regards to your career or potential and future career path, you need to dip your toes in a couple things. If you rewind back, I said, okay, I don't want a job, so I'm not even going to go that route. I started hanging out with friends who are entrepreneurs, asking people, hey, man, can I come work with you for a couple of days to, like, you know, for free, just to get a feel for your business? And I started taking a look at different things and saying, okay, what do I like? What do I have? Here's the keyword, affinity with. Like, what can I connect with? And when I came across real estate, that affinity was sensed and detected immediately. I said, okay, this is it. Even though everything about it was foreign to me, and from a personality standpoint, the opposite, right? Because people filter it the wrong way, right? They're immediately looking for what they like now. Then I wouldn't have done real estate, because I would have been told, you're not socially savvy enough. You have no connections. You don't have the money. You're not a business dude. You're just a meathead. You're an athlete, right? I didn't view it from that perspective. So I started viewing and experimenting different things. So we had the education part, we have the experimentation part in regards to your career. But number three is you need to kind of map out for you as an individual, outside of just financially, what you want to be, who you want to be, what you want to accomplish in the next 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Even if they're not, we can say, super razor specific, you need to have some sort of guidance, man. And when you get the fuck off social media, you'll start actually piecing together and painting the picture of what you want. Everything in our culture now is what's famous on social media. It's ridiculous. All the terms that people use, the vernacular, I mean, everything is just the same bullshit that the algorithm spits out. And that shit pisses me off. It's fucking pathetic, dude, to see what people are talking about. Now all of a sudden, everybody wants to talk about being a man in relationships. Why? Because YouTube shoves it in your fucking face. Why wasn't it cool when I talked about it 10 years ago? Why was I being censored and shunned for it 10 years ago? And now everybody's popular, right? You need to get with the program a little bit more and spot this nonsense. That's no different than what was popular on TV, right? It's the same fucking thing. So those are a couple things I can give, man, because the moment people disconnect a little bit more from everyone else and everything else and really focus on themselves, like, dude, I'll even say this and I'll pass it back to you, bro. Go to the fucking park. Go to a local park near you and work out, walk around, get some fresh air, talk to some people, right? And experience that. And now if that scares the shit out of you, that's an indicator of where our world is. We're so disconnected from reality. You're comfortable sitting in your prison cell, your house or your apartment all day, but going out, getting fresh air and interacting with another human being is, oh my God, right? So we've lost touch with reality. The more you're in touch with the real world, then these types of things will become easier. Your own self-talk and analysis will become easier. And all this complexity of the online world starts to fizzle out, and the simplicity of real life will start to come into play.
So when you start plugging into that knowledge, realizing that you need to detach yourself from these things and plug into yourself, go outside, go into nature. I agree 100% about the park. That's what I do every morning. I take my little dog out and I talk to people, and it's great. What made you start doing that, and what made you realize that you need to, and that everybody basically needs to disconnect from all this fake world that's just being thrown at them 24/7?
Oh, it started when I decided to get into real estate, man. I knew that I had to have a radical 180, 360, 720, change, because who I was up until that point wasn't going to get me the success that I needed in real estate, not only as a man, but as a business and as an entrepreneur. So that's when I just became a sponge. What do I need to do? What do successful people do? You get the books, you start reading, you start learning from the people who paved the path before you. It's that simple. And then this is that step is easy, by the way. And most people won't even do that. But the second one is you got to pay the price. You got to actually fucking do it. I mean, shit, you're a great example of that, right? You did that. You got on the coaching. You did what you had to do. You followed the fucking path that we already had put, that people put before me, that I put for you, that you're putting for the next guy. But people come and they resist. I don't want to learn. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, that's really what it is, man. Because I said, okay, I need a change. Now, people have that thought, but they're not then willing to make the change. They won't even fully acknowledge it. Well, I want to do that, but that's not me. Right, but you can become that. If you really want it that bad, you can transform and you can change. The question is, are you willing to do it? But they hide behind the facade of, well, no, that's not me. Meaning incapable of change, which is bullshit. That's a cop-out, right? So that's really what it was, bro. It started 10 years ago. I was the blank slate, and I said, I'll do whatever it takes. But what's tied behind that is a commitment. I committed to that process long before I ever chose what vehicle was going to bring the process. I just said, I need to change. I need to become somebody better and somebody different, right? Where everyone else tells you, stay the same, it's okay. No, dude, you got to have radical improvement and evolution. If you stay the same, you're dying. It's no stagnant state in the universe. You're either improving, getting better, evolving, or you're regressing, right? And then that's pretty much how I sum that up.
Love that. So what do you think makes people so resistant to these changes? And why do you think people are so attached to their identities that are often preconceived notions from their families and friends and experiences they've had? And also, what made you realize that you were not going to go along that path?
Well, the path walked by the many is what we observe, what we're in, what we're raised in, what we're told, what we're programmed to do. I mean, that's just the way of the world. I don't think any of us had the privilege, or very few people, to say, okay, we've been around normies. We were around extremely successful people who had different ideas. We were never exposed to that as kids. I wasn't. I went to school. My parents are immigrants. They struggled. I mean, that was my reality and what I was exposed to. And then I was even told by them, everybody you see on TV, the rich people, they're lucky, or they got that. You can't have it. So of course, if you grow up that way, that's your influence, and you never look in other places. No one ever told you, hey, you can create yourself to be what you want to be. You can accomplish whatever you like. Nobody really says it. Or you might see it in a movie, but it's like, oh, that's a movie. It's not real life. And that is a major contributing factor to it, I think. That's what's pushed. That's what's taught. That's our experience. But very rarely do we have that rich uncle or somebody who taps us on the shoulder and gives us a different insight. And even if we do, a lot of times we're so young and rebellious and naive, we won't listen to that advice. We won't believe it, because the other factors that are already there reinforce what we think we already know. And since we're creatures of habit and patterns, it's difficult sometimes to break out of a pattern and establish a new one. Which is another reason why we instruct people to take a leap of faith. Go to an event, get on coaching, because when you do that, you take such a radical step and you have to go so much out of your comfort zone that all those steps that you take and all those new things that you're exposed to finally give you that, like, whoa, okay, right? The person who's never come to an event, they come to an event, they had to travel, make the accommodations, pay the money, do all this stuff, get exposed to new people, get out of their comfort zone. Now you've taken so many steps that now you're finally awakened to this new world, that if we made it easy for you or left it within that cushy little existence that you have, it wouldn't have knocked you over the head enough to actually get you to wake up and see and experience what all this stuff is about. So, there's a lot there, dude, and that could be a whole podcast episode in itself. But the underlying theme there is there has to be a desire for more and a willingness to explore. And a lot of people just don't have that, or they say they do. They'll talk about it, but in action, they won't do it, because we innately, as human beings, we fear the unknown. We fear the unknown. I drop you into a field that's pitch black. Even if I tell you everything's going to be okay, you still have that, oh my God, any little stick that breaks, any little wind, breeze, you're like, oh my God, what is it? But after you're there for 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights, you get comfortable because nothing's happened to you. But we innately fear the unknown. But there's a few of us who will face the unknown and say, I'm comfortable in the unknown. I've made the unknown my home. And you can too. I've done it. You can too. If you want to come, I'll teach you. But you got to be willing to pay the price for me to teach you, or for someone else to teach you. Is it that important to you? That really becomes the question.
Most definitely. And when it comes to fearing the unknown and breaking that fear, I'm sure you'd agree that the more you just expose yourself to a situation, you put yourself out there, you become desensitized to the unknown eventually. What made you even start going out into the unknown and being okay with that?
Well, number one, I've been doing it my whole life, right? But number two, just for simplicity's sake, because I don't want people to think this is some esoteric bullshit. The unknown is simply a new experience that hasn't been experienced by you or unlocked. If you've never approached a stranger on the street, that's the unknown. You can do it. You'll go through the bullshit, the nervousness, whatever. But after you've done that 100 times, that's not the unknown anymore. So all you're doing effectively is stretching out this zone of unknown. And once I've experienced so much more, that unknown becomes smaller and smaller. So simultaneously, you're becoming comfortable, and that polarity flips to now the unknown being more comfortable for you than the known. But think of it that way. You're just stretching this thing. And when you stretch it to a certain point, it doesn't affect you anymore. But me, I realized, man, I found fun in it. I realized that was the answer to all these insecurities and issues that I had. It made me feel better. It was starting to unlock levels and an experience of life that I thought was worthy of what I wanted and what I deserved as a human being, based on my desires as a man, right? As a human being. And the more I explored it, the more I played with it, the more I studied about it, the more I realized, like, man, this is the place to be. And the classic example I can give people is, how sad is it when we see an interview of an old person talking about all their regrets? That's an example of that. of not pushing into the unknown, not, rolling the dice or risking it or whatever people say, right? So when we give these certain references, it becomes clear to people. But really, that's the spice of life. The zest of life is in the unknown. And the more you play around with it, the more comfortable you get with it. That's the cool part about being a human being, is we're so evolved that even something like that now becomes fun for you. And when you do it more and more, that now becomes your pattern. And when it becomes your pattern, it's very easy for you to do. It's just automatic, like tying your shoes or brushing your teeth, which you do mindlessly now, day in and day out.
The zest for life is the unknown. That sounds like it should be on a t-shirt, and you should be selling this thing on Etsy with a bunch of different interstellar type backgrounds, stars and flashy lights and everything.
I'm going to post that as a quote right now.
Yes, very eloquent. No, you really should. On the topic of the unknown, I know one of the other things on the flip side that's important in order to achieve success is to have some sort of schedule for yourself, so that you at least have a blueprint of what your own day is going to look like. Sure, there will be unknown variables. I know, especially in the beginning, anybody launching a business or a real estate endeavor, they're going to have to at least have a rough idea of what their day looks like from A to Z. Now, the question for you is, what did that look like when you first started, and what does that look like now? Also, when you wake up, do you have a thought that kind of gets you in the right moment throughout the day? Or are there certain affirmations that you think, or how at this point are you able to, I guess, mentally program yourself to always be having an awesome day as you do?
Yeah, great questions, man. That was a lot.
It was a lot, and
yeah,
I can answer one at a time, and I might ask you again.
Sure. I think I got it all though. So understand, like when we say schedule, right? Like a lot of people, all that is we've decoded what high performance is for a human being. As an example, look at any organization that we respect, even from history. Let's look at warriors or anybody like that. They followed a schedule. Maybe they didn't call it a schedule, but every day they would train, they would do this diet, they would blah. Like everything was very regimented. So all we're doing is taking from something that we know and duplicating it because we know it works. So for me, I just copied what the successful people did. I woke up early, and the non-negotiables in the morning were workout, right? Meditate, read, right? That was my first hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning. I had to wake up early enough to build the momentum and do these rituals. Then from 8 to about 6 or 7 p.m. every day, bro, was basically just prospecting, lead follow-up, role play, going on appointments, or doing more prospecting. That's it. 3-4 hours of prospecting, lead follow-up, more training, right? More role play. I'm either going on appointments or more prospecting. That's it. Prospecting is reaching out to customers in person, on the phone, talking to people, attempting to create an opportunity for myself. That's it.
Role playing for people who don't know?
Yeah, role playing is practicing, right? I would call Alex. We would simulate a transaction, an interaction, a cold call, right? Or some sort of scenario where he pretends to be the customer and I have to deliver my script and my dialogue, ask my questions, get my questions answered. I was doing that 2 hours a day, prospecting 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. And that's it, bro. I did that for years. I followed that simple schedule. I even made a post on my Instagram that like went viral, where I snapped a picture of the schedule. I said, that's it. This is what has led me to where I'm at today. And you people today still refuse to do that, or you're looking for the better answer instead of just fucking committing to that. It's insane. Now I have freedom. I can do whatever the hell I want. However, the morning ritual is still the same, right? My wake up time might be 30, 45 minutes different, right? I'm usually up by 6 most days instead of 5 or 5:15 like I was before. But that middle part of the day now, right? In the morning, I'm in the office. I'll usually work out pretty early, but I'm in the office. And those first 2 or 3 hours are meetings, trainings, administrative stuff with my assistant, right? And doing all the training and protocol stuff that I need to do with my team. That midday is also meetings, trainings, and other things with a separate business. First one is real estate. Second one is my personal stuff, right? Afternoon, pretty much from 3 or 4 p.m. on, I technically don't have to work. But that time I dedicate to social media, getting back to people, right? Doing an additional workout, more reading and education, right? Going live on my Instagram or Facebook. So that afternoon and evening slot is more open, but it's still dedicated to work and self-education and my purpose. But the first 4 or 5, 6 hours of the day are jam-packed towards my businesses, meeting, and now either instructing the current talent that I have or acquiring more talent to grow and scale my businesses, right? That's how it's changed now. But technically now I can tell people I can do whatever the fuck I want. If I wanted to, I could literally do nothing all day and still make money, and this machine would generate money for me, right? But I'm still very much locked in. But instead of being required to work 12 or 14 hours in one business now, I work half that time or less, and it's focused and it's concentrated, but I have employees and I'm employing and working with 50, 75, 100 people between all my businesses. That's the difference. But the ritualistic stuff stays the same. I still follow a general same routine because I know that equals success.
Definitely. And that, I'm so glad you brought that up about just following the schedule of successful people and just implementing their habits, because there's so much free stuff online that you can follow, and you'll find those basic principles as far as.
And here, dude, let me interrupt you. I apologize. And the issue here is people want to pick and choose.
They do.
You'll give them the schedule and what you did. Well, I'll do this, but no, you got a coach. I'm not going to do that. You wake up at 5. I'm not a morning person. Like, no, you can't do that. When you're given the blueprint and the schedule, you follow it to the T. And this is what I would say to myself back then or to somebody listening now, who are you to critique and say what you will and won't do? You're not in that position to do it. How can you look at success and say, no, I'm only going to do part of it, but I want the full success? Delusion. And I wanted to make that point because people will start to pick and choose. And it's like, dude, you're not in the position to do that. Number 2, it's foolish to do that. Why would you try to pick apart? Again, and the reason is they're uncomfortable. They don't want to wake up early. They don't want to pay the money for the mentorship and the coaching. I get it. But admit that for what it is and figure it out instead of saying you don't have to do it. Big difference.
I love that. Admit that for what it is and figure it out, because you're absolutely right. People will want to pick and choose. And as you get more established in your career, you can pick and choose to a point. However, when you're first starting, if you don't have anything to your name, you don't have the successes yet, it's extremely important just to follow someone who does, just to embody that blueprint and embody those principles until you decide what the best rhythm is for you. So you were talking about morning rituals. Now, in the morning, do you have any general thoughts? Do you do affirmations, or at this point, is it just so strongly embodied within yourself because you've been doing this for so long that you're just in it? Or tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, great question, bro. I'm at a point now where I'm just a monster, right? When I wake up, there's no grogginess, right? I take care of myself. My health is very important, right? But I'm a monster, dude. Like, I don't have that negative self-talk anymore like most people. And if I do, it just dissipates immediately. Like, I've programmed myself so strong for so many years that now that stuff is just an automatic response. So I'm still ritualistic, though. I still work out in the morning. I still do my 15, 20 minutes of meditation. I still have my tea. I still hydrate. I still do particular things like read. That stuff is just ingrained in me. It doesn't take any extra effort or motivation, in quotes, for me to do it, right? So, but that's a product of all the years of doing the affirmations and stuff like I did in the beginning. I felt dumb in the beginning when I did it, but I did it anyway. It was tough for me to wake up at 5. I never woke up at 5 in my fucking life, ever. And when I did, I would complain about it, even if it was for like a vacation or something, right? Like, I hated it. I wasn't a morning person. It would take me like 30 minutes or an hour to like wake up when I woke up back in the day. I hated it.
Bro, I was
but I went to the gym, I read, I did all the tough shit that literally went against every fiber of my being, because this is what I need to do to become the person that I want to become, period. Right? But now, of course, automatic. Now, my normal self-talk and how I program myself and how I interact with the world doesn't require affirmations or incantations, right? Now, does that mean that I never do them? No, I'll still do them. But I'll be out in public and I'm like, I'm a fucking badass, dude. Like, I'm a beast. But when I say that, though, I'm not delusional. I'm actually a beast with my production, how I am physically, my results. Like, that can't be denied. But again, I'm not yelling it to people like, hey, look at me, I'm a beast. It's not for recognition, but it's just I am what I affirmed before. Before I didn't have it. Now I am it, and I'm double affirming it. That's the difference.
Man, I love that you got to this point where now your whole entity and existence is basically
Yep.
embodying these things that you said that you were doing in the beginning, even when you thought it was corny, when it, it in the beginning when you start affirmations, you want to believe it, but when there's a little bit of a disconnect between the things you're saying and the life you're currently living, you keep repeating those things long enough, it's almost like you have to meet that disconnect and you have to create that bridge. So for you, when did you start really seeing that you were creating that bridge between like who you were, the way you were living, and I guess leveling up into the person that you are, not even now, but you were
Yeah.
realizing you were starting to become the person you wanted to be?
Yeah, and that's a great question, bro. People need to see like what we're describing here. Like, if you're gonna do affirmations like I am confident or whatever it is, like let's say you have three, you have to know that in your mind eventually you're gonna become that. Otherwise, you're gonna be on the hamster wheel that most people are on. Case in point, I know people who have had their real estate license for 3, 2, 5, 6 years who are still watching the new agent content. Bro, you're not a new agent anymore. You're a non-producing agent. However, right? And that's not a diss. That's just a reality. But if you keep watching new agent content, what the fuck does that mean that you are a new agent? You need to break out of it, dude. Right? It's the same thing with this. You need to know in your heart of hearts that eventually, when you say I am confident long enough and you back it up with real world action, that you will become confident. Well, what comes after that? Right? Like that has to be a prevailing thought and understanding in your mind. So when you say this, you know, how long it took me to really see things happening. Well, on different levels, dude. It was different timelines. I would say my confidence really didn't kick in until like a year and a half. I didn't feel like my success monetarily and business wise wasn't materializing for at least like a year and a half. And then to even answer that even more, to say full confidence, probably years, bro. However, I had confidence in the process, right? And that's where people lack. You don't get confidence in the result. You have confidence in the process that it's going to get you to where you want to be. I don't give a shit about my temporary results. That's just temporary emotion, right? You have 3 deals cancel in a week, you feel like shit. But if 3 more people call you within an hour and say, come list my house, all of a sudden you feel good. Well, what changed, right? Like you need to be able to be more even keel with your emotional state. But it took years, bro. I just trusted the process and believed in it wholeheartedly. What do people do? The results they get or don't get is what really, for them, and this is incorrect, predicates their amount of belief. Well, I'll believe in it when I get in the results. It's like, what? That's why I never understood that. I'm like, dude, I'm giving you a blueprint. It's like, coach me, and then when I get the result, I'll pay you. I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, who the what? So not only would I not do that, you need to see the flaw in what you did. You're basically saying what me or anybody else would give you isn't trustworthy and doesn't work. And you'll believe in it when you get the result. Now, if that's how you live your life, I'll believe in something when I get the result, you're fucked. You're not going to get anywhere because you'll never have. And I don't want people to think this is religious because it could be religious, but having faith, belief in the process, believe in the question mark or the unknown to get you to the destination. If you can't do that or put your trust in like a coach or somebody else to help you, you will always fall short because you will never give your all into something and you'll always be skeptical.
Yeah, man, you 100% have to believe in what you're doing, and that's always the first step. I wouldn't say every, but I would say probably about, at least 3/4 of the success books I've read, it always starts with you. It starts with your mindset. It starts with really having the conviction and believing in what you're doing and understanding that you are following these steps that other people have already set for you. You're walking down a path that has been paved by others before, and all you have to do is follow it and observe accordingly. And most of the time when you do that enough, you end up getting there. When it came to your conviction and believing in what you're doing, was it your previous background having the discipline and success in sports, or what made you know that inevitably you were going to do well with this? Because you even crushed your first year and you just knew going in, the moment you were going in, that you were going to blow this up, and you did.
No plan B, man. Do or die, you know?
Well,
I
yeah,
know some people preach for people to have a plan B. I don't believe in that because you'll never give it your all, dude.
dude.
Because again, what I did was the exact opposite of what I had done, right? I was an athlete. I wasn't known for being a talker, not a salesperson, never really had a real job besides like campus jobs and summer jobs that were bullshit. You know what I mean? So on paper, I shouldn't have won. I didn't have any advantages or natural gifts when it came to real estate. Wasn't a great communicator, none of that stuff. Didn't have an extreme amount of confidence when it came to, selling or entrepreneurship, right? But I just had this unwavering belief in myself that again, this isn't rocket science. It can be done, like we're not like, I could understand maybe losing faith or something if you're trying to invent something that no one's ever done or do some unheard of thing that's like you're pulling something out of the ether, like creating the iPhone before people even had a concept of it. Like that's some next level shit, man. Right. But like, dude, we're talking about making money as an entrepreneur. Like, okay, this isn't new, bro. We're in 20 fucking 23 or back then for me, 2013. Like, you know what I mean? So I just knew it's like, dude, eventually you'll figure it out, right? You just got to work hard. You got to do the basics. Like it's not rocket science. So that's more the belief in oneself. And I knew doing the right things, following the blueprint, that I would get there. And I just had an unwavering belief in myself, man. And here's another key. I talked about this earlier on a podcast that I filmed that I released. A lot of people don't realize that they file other people's support. And when I say file, I mean mentally, right? As like a requirement instead of a bonus, right?
Oh, yeah.
No one owes you support. The only thing that you need is a belief in yourself, which I had an unwavering belief in myself. I don't give a shit if my parents, friends, relatives, everybody was against me and even actively, and some of them did talk shit against what I was doing, openly against what I didn't care. I don't need your fucking support. So when I get this question, well, how do I get so and so to support me? It's like, why are you even concerned with getting people's support? You don't need that. That's not a fuck. Who told you that's a requirement? Why do you want to make it a requirement? Because it doesn't feel good. Well, guess what? Being an entrepreneur doesn't feel good most of the time. Get used to it. Marinate in that fucking feeling and get used to it. Because eventually you learn to just push it out and not care about it. But you will in the beginning. I get it. But you need to understand that that's part of this process. That is a bonus, not a requirement. And that's the key, man. That's one of the keys. I realized that early on, and it really is just an unwavering belief in yourself because the answers have already been revealed, right? And you just need to put in the work and follow the process. And emotionally, that's not a comfortable thing, but you need to accept it and man up.
100%. Why do you think so many people give up on this so quickly instead of pushing through? Because as you've seen, as I've seen, as people we have both trained have seen, it ends up not necessarily being as hard as a lot of people think it's going to be. As Mike Ferry says, it's simple but not easy. Why do you think so many people give up so quickly?
It goes back to the beginning, bro. They're getting in real estate because they follow you and they think you're cool instead of it being a genuine thing that they want from within them. That's the difference. In my heart of hearts, I wanted to do it. It wasn't because I saw some guy in a fucking Lambo and was like, oh, he's in real estate, right? I did see the signs that said make money in real estate, but my mind said that's probably like one dude out of like a million. So that can't be the reason that I joined, right? But it's just, I wanted it. It wasn't anyone else. And a lot of people's goals and aspirations aren't their own. There's someone else's. And you need to be very connected and rooted with yourself to know the difference. A lot of people will say, no, I want it, but they really don't. If I have a 5-minute conversation with them, I'll realize very quickly it's surface level, but they think up here that it's their goal when it's not. You need to get connected. And this is why, like, I'll tell people, this is why, like, what I teach will touch on things that other people ignore or aren't even aware of. And that makes it unique because I can help you with that. But number one, are you aware enough to realize what I just said? Number two, are you dedicated enough now to say, okay, I'm going to handle this shit? Or is it just, oh, yeah, that sounds cool? You know what I mean? But you have to get really like, okay, like this is some serious shit. Because a lot of people, again, it's the same thing with procrastinating for school. None of us gave a shit about school. That's why you would procrastinate. You didn't want to do it. But for the kid who that class or that grade in that class meant, I need to get into that college because I want to follow that one particular career, they didn't procrastinate, but that was very connected with who they wanted to be and where they wanted to go. Therefore, procrastination was never a problem. But that person at that time was very decided and knew and clear about what they wanted to do and where they wanted to go. And it really boils down to that, bro. It all stems from that. Everyone worries about thoughts, ideas, actions, when at the root, it's identity, values, and beliefs. right? The basic NLP stuff that I've taught you and you know. Everyone wants to mess around on the surface. It has nothing to do with it. It's identity, values, and beliefs. That is the core driving factors of the human being.
It is identity, values, and beliefs. And in my observations, people are so disconnected from those. To go back to your point about how people are just watching people's lives and
Yep.
thinking they want to do something because they've seen someone else do it, and they don't know that that's even what they actually want for themselves. They're just going by a glamorous smoke and mirrors type scenario. What made you decide to choose real estate as your vehicle to get you from point A to point B?
I just saw the opportunity in it, man, where everyone looks at it from a perspective of like, oh, I can't do this because I said, damn, what could I accomplish with this? How will it transform me? What are the possibilities with this thing? And the moment I started exploring that other side that other people don't, I just knew right away, okay, this is it. Like immediately, dude, immediately. Because if somebody's listening to this or talking to you, or just in general, right? When they look at potentially accomplishing something, you'll agree with me that all they do is look at what they lack or the negative or what can go wrong. I do this like when I have consults with people about like even joining the coaching or anything that I offer. I'm like, dude, all you did was list and talk about what could go wrong or what the worst case scenario is. Fair, right? That could be a consideration. But let's look at the other side of the coin now. What can come from this? And a lot of people have that part of their mind so dormant because they've never exercised it. They don't even know how to look at possibilities, but they're grand fucking champion masters, level 1 million of the worst thing that could happen. So it's like, dude, you were fighting an unfair fight the whole time. You had a Goliath versus an ant, the negative versus the positive, right? Like, of course you're not going to win. I looked at the other side and I said, what strengths do I bring to the table that could benefit in me in this? How much money could I make? Who can I become? What is it going to force me to confront? And right away, I was like, that's it. But all it took was an exploration of the other side of possibilities of what could come from it. What if just like it could go wrong? What if it goes terribly right? What could I accomplish? And very quickly, I said, okay, this makes sense. Let's go. Because there's always a marginal risk in everything you do. Every choice has consequences, ladies and gentlemen. Every choice has consequences. So with that said, I'm good with the consequences here. I like this game. I like this roll of the dice because the potential outcome is good enough to make me salivate, to make me like, oh, okay, yeah, this is going to be worth it. Because if I accomplish that, it will have been worth it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, and that's a really great way to approach it. When you enter anything, there's always going to be a level of risk, and I think you're right that a lot of people just get their real estate license and they're not going all in. And what I think is amazing is how when you go all in, as you have, as I have, as some of the people, as many people you've taught, as some of the people I'm teaching are now doing, when you go all in real estate, it's amazing what can actually transpire for you, and where you can end up going in this career. When it comes to where you were, you were always going all in, and then where you are now when it comes to I'm sure you had goals for yourself as what you wanted to do as an agent, what you wanted to do as a team. Did you, when you got started 10 years ago, did you envision this place you're at now? Did you plan this, or is this more serendipitous? You went with the flow, you rolled with the punches?
Yes, maybe not as specific, like, oh, in 10 years, I'm going to have X amount of money. Like, I didn't know that, but I knew that I would be big at this scale for sure. And on this level, like I had a very pretty good vision of it. I just couldn't map out every single detail because like if you don't have that unwavering belief and also pretty damn clear picture of where you want to go and where you want to be, it's easy for you to veer off. Because like that's a common expression, right? Going with the flow. Well, so if we get in a room, Alex and me and three other people that you respect are doing cocaine, are you going to go with the flow and do cocaine? Because I wouldn't expect you to,
good,
right?
man. It's all right, you know.
Exactly, right? But that would be filed under technically going with the flow, right?
So like, y'all can
it,
do that, but not me.
exactly, and neither would I. So really, everything you do in this life will test that commitment and unwavering focus and belief that you have. If you veer off, it's because it wasn't strong enough. That's my answer to that. And I've held true to that vision from day one, just like nationwide. When I went nationwide with my team, I had mentioned it years before. Eventually, I don't know when, but we're going to go nationwide. I know that's in the future, but when it materializes, it will. And when it's time, I will strike, and I will strike quickly. And that's what I did. I had two people approach me at the time, Carol and Paula, bring up the idea about the team. I said, nationwide, let's go. And we started it. We got the contracts drafted up. Within a week, everything was rolling. But I had mentioned it before. So I knew that moment would come. And when it came, what did I do? I seized it. Because that's how it is, bro. But and people won't take the time to sit there and say, what do I want the future to look like? And just put pen to paper. They've never done it. Their imagination is so weak and dim, they can't do it. So you need to work on it, right? But your imagination is great for what can go wrong.
Yeah.
Not for what can go right and what you want your future to be. So you need to get working on those things and those concepts to improve them, make them stronger, so you have more affinity with them and you can use them to your advantage. Communication and imagination are the two most powerful tools on this planet for the human being, for sure.
They very much are. It's amazing how we can imagine the worst scenarios. We can create constant conspiracy theories against ourselves.
Yep.
Yet when it comes to really focusing on how amazing we can become, it seems that we're often, as human beings, a little short-circuited on that. And evolutionarily, we have been programmed to focus on the negative, because when you had a giant, a lion or a bear or other attacker who was an imminent threat, it was good for us to be able to be sensitive to that and to learn from that.
Yep.
And go forth. However, now in our current environment, we don't have those threats, and now we're just bombarded with this negativity, and so often people get consumed in it. Now, what do you do to combat negativity, or what would you recommend for people to do to combat that negative voice, whether it's within themselves or because of influences they've heard and it saturated them?
Well, you just have to surround, like, people don't realize that that's almost entirely in your control. If you see negativity on social media, it's very easy for you to minimize that. Any account or person that posts negative shit, block it or delete it. What do? We argue with the motherfucker we don't agree with instead of just going somewhere else. Right? You watch the news, turn the fucking news off. You have people around you who perpetuate this type of shit, get rid of them. Oh, it's extreme. How the fuck is it extreme to change your life in a positive way? What? Get rid of them. Well, shit, that would change my life completely. Exactly. You're not comfortable changing your life. You're comfortable in your misery. That's the problem. It's that easy, bro. I'm at peace. Like this is the thing. I control that, and I also give the world peace. That's why I get peace back. I walk around with a smile on my face and a good vibe. I take good vibes wherever I go. Even if somebody feeds me bullshit, I feed them something good. Right? If someone's mad and they yell at me, I'll just say they're probably having a bad day. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. No problem. Cool. I can even get given bullshit and I give back goodness all the time. But everywhere I look, symbols in my home, conversations on my phone, on my social media, all I see is growth, evolution, progress, right? Optimism. I mean, the scents, right? My clothes, the colors, everything does the opposite for me. I can handle negativity like a champ, and that demonstration I gave you of being fed bullshit and giving back goodness is the ultimate mastery of that, or one of them, I would say, right? But everywhere else, the people, the circumstances, everything I do, everything I touch doesn't feed me that, and people aren't willing to do it. Like, that's one of the most radical changes that people will compliment and realize when they join one of my coaching programs. Like, let's say the first tier is suddenly they're put into this environment where everything is conducive to their growth. Everything is supportive. And then a lot of people are just like, oh, wow, I've never had this. Like, so how can I describe that to somebody who's never had it or never experienced it? You know what I mean? But that to them is the biggest aha or wake up call, because now they're getting something that's just so radically different in this one particular concept that we're talking about. And that alone can change everything for you, because it opens up a whole new perspective and world that you've never fucking experienced before, when everybody's on that same wavelength 24/7, 365. And then you're overly exposing yourself to it. I mean, it's a thing of beauty, bro, but that's how you change. But with change comes the paradigm shift where your current reality shatters. And a lot of people aren't willing to have that current reality shattered to establish a new one. That's the heart of the issue right there.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's very uncomfortable for people to discard what they're used to and familiar with in order to grow and evolve.
Yeah.
When you first started, did you have moments where there were people in your life who, it's not that they're bad people, but maybe you reached a point in your own evolution and your own success where they weren't necessarily coming with you? I'm sure you did. And so the biggest question is, how did you handle that, and how did it not phase or bother you, and you decided to keep going in the trajectory you're in?
Yeah, when I implemented everything I had to do, changing my habits, new schedule, all that, I just didn't have time. I didn't have time. I was getting back to people days later, and just naturally, when you do what you're supposed to do and you're that focused, people will leave you alone, and everything and everyone will drift away from you that shouldn't be there, because that's what it is, right? I'm so focused. Like, I didn't have idle time. Like, I'm gonna bring that up. People have too much idle time. You think you're working hard, you're not.
Yes.
You're not. You ain't doing shit. If you have time to scroll and all that, and keep up with the Joneses and what everybody's doing and all these fucking weird ass trends on social media, like, I hear people say words now. Like, I heard somebody say at the gym that I still don't know. They said passport bro. I don't know what the fuck that is. Oh, the passport bros, right? Like, I don't know what the fuck that is, right? So I keep hearing shit, and like, I'm proud that I don't know what that is, because they have too much time. They're probably watching YouTube and listening to all this shit, and that's the culture. I'm disconnected from that because I'm so focused on me and what I'm doing. I could give a fuck about what that is. I'm still not going to look it up, and I'm sure somebody will tell me, and they'll comment on your podcast. Oh, that means da, 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 da. That's what I'm talking about. I don't have time. So when you're focused on that, dude, you're good. You're good. And the right people, you'll find the right people. Like, again, oh, I'm going to join this program, go to this event. Like, you'll find the right people, dude. That problem will solve itself. But when you're so focused on what you're doing and you're just on point, you don't have time for all this nonsense, right? But when you sit there for an hour or two and watch Netflix and feel sorry for yourself, that's when all that bullshit starts creeping in, and you start talking bad to yourself or entertaining other people, or chasing ass and doing all the other dumb shit that we do when we're not focused and on our purpose.
Yes. Yes, being on purpose is so important, and something that it seems a lot of people are not very cognizant of. They're just kind of asleep, just scrolling, just hoping for the next best thing, watching everybody else's lives, and they're just flooding themselves with that crap.
Yep.
Now I know you have a very full life with your between the real estate team, between your coaching, between all your other businesses, and I could see how that would get also a little overwhelming at times when you have all these different irons in the fire. What do you do to keep your memory sharp and keep yourself organized?
So I'm very disciplined with my own stuff, but I'm very giving with the people around me, right? When I started scaling my businesses, I'm always on the lookout for talent, right? I've hired a ton of people. I don't mind giving them more money, right? And I take care of the people around me, and I put the people in place that I need to put in to allow me to remain sharp in my life. And most people won't do that, right? I'm willing to pay the price. I'm willing to go all in with every step, whether that was building it initially, scaling, bringing on talent. I'll pay extra for talent. Like, I'm just willing to do whatever it takes. And I think that that's really what it comes down to. That's what's allowed me to have my time to read and study and do my own events and travel and speak and do all the stuff that I do. Is I put a lot of people in places. I've hired a lot of people, and I take care of the talent around me. And those same principles that built my business are still helping it grow. It's just in a different way.
Be more, do more, and have more, which is really the ultimate win-win. Now, I know we've been talking almost an hour now, and I wanted to wrap it up with a couple quick questions. One, what are you drinking right now?
Yerba mate. It's it's a drink from South America. Very good. I have it regularly. Fantastic. Sometimes I'll put some, key lime juice in it and stuff. It's one of those things. I drink a lot of tea. I'll make herbal teas. I drink this tea, and I really think it's great for flushing your system, and making sure that not only you're getting the water that you need, but infusing your body with all the essential vitamins and minerals, which is severely lacking in our diet today as Americans, sadly.
Yeah, very much so. So it sounds like, based on my knowledge of you and even based on what you're sharing right now with the herbal teas, it's safe to say that you place a pretty large importance on taking care of your body. Is that
Oh, 100%, dude. That's the vessel. Yeah, the mind is all powerful, but it's in the flesh suit that we have. So if you maximize the body, you can maximize the mind and everything else. And we know that even emotions are directly tied to our biology, right? I truly, like, as an example, I told people one of the biggest differences I noticed when I stopped eating meat, right? Fish, chicken, meat, was that over extra, almost uncontrollable anger or short temperedness that I would feel didn't completely go away, but it severely declined. And I was able to handle that because I was always known for having a very short temper, right? I even think of situations now where somebody will cut me off in traffic, and I think back like, man, 15 years ago, that might have been a fight. And now I just laugh and wave, you know? So I've been seeing a lot of direct correlations, how the sun, responds to my skin, how I feel, how I wake up, my energy levels throughout the day, my blood work, my testosterone, like everything. I've paid attention to everything, and I've experimented as well and done all these things, and I just keep seeing more and more improvements. So to me, it makes sense, right? If I can take this vessel and maximize its use, then everything is going to get better, right? From my mental capacity to my physical capacity. And everybody wants to live at that level, or at least aspire to. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
And it's incredible how we can actually create these new neural pathways, and we can, lengthen our fuses like you did, going from just having those emotional spurts in your head now to being a much more patient person, which I'm sure is more than just what you're eating and consuming. Though it's fascinating how when you cut meat out, it seemed like that had a profound effect in reducing that response. um are there any other foods that you avoid or would recommend for other people to avoid, and if so, why?
Yeah, and this is a touchy subject, because everybody has their beliefs and, oh, this scientist says this and that. But, I pretty much have been plant-based now for a better part of like 8 years or more, maybe even close to 9 at this point. And I try to follow more of an alkaline lifestyle where your body never really gets in an acidic state. You really don't ever get sick, you don't have mucus. It does limit some of your food options, but it's one of those things where I feel so good all the time. It makes sense, and I've slowly worked my way there. It originally started with athletics. I was always the kid that was in good shape regardless of how I ate, but I never felt good. I was pulling my muscles all the time. I was kind of groggy, and because I started ascending more in athletics and getting to a higher level, my coaches literally stepped in and started having me implement changes. So initially I cut out breads, then I cut out dairy and most animal products. And then the last thing to cut out for me, and I had already cut virtually everything else out for a long time before I went plant-based. But the last things I really had to cut out that I was still eating was like meat, chicken, fish, and eggs. That was the last thing I had to cut out. But prior to that, for years before that, I had already cut out milk, most of dairy, breads. So if you add everything, there's been huge dietal changes for at least probably 15 years.
Wow, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, cutting out bread and dairy is irrefutably a great place to start, because just cutting those things out, um, they put so many weird ingredients in all of that stuff, and just cutting those things out, automatically you have less mucus, you have more mental clarity. Now, what does a not necessarily a whole day, but with alkaline diet, like what types of things do you typically eat?
A lot of fruits and vegetables, man. I do eat like a lot of quinoa, wild rice, Brazil nuts, walnuts. That's the bulk of probably the more calorically dense things that I eat. I make a lot of stews. I'll put some spring water in a pot, throw some of my alkaline herbs in there like parsley, thyme, oregano, and a lot of the stuff that people use regularly, right? But I'll throw in some oyster mushrooms in there, king trumpet mushrooms, bell pepper, cucumber, onion, like red onion, shallots, butternut squash. I mean, I just throw a whole stuff and big pot of vegetables that I wash, green onions. Sometimes I'll throw some red leaf lettuce in there or some kale. and man, it's just delicious. It's like a
Now
soup slash stew. I make salads as well. You know, in the morning, typically it's a lot of fresh fruit, the burro bananas, the thicker ones that are like a mini plantain. I cut those up. I'll even put them on the cast iron skillet and kind of chop them up and grill them up. And they literally taste like French fries used to, but it's an alkaline fruit. So when you look at the burro banana, it actually has seeds. The regular banana now is so GMO and processed. When you cut it open, it doesn't have any seeds. If I put it on the skillet, the regular banana that people eat, it literally melts because it's all sugar. The burro banana actually it browns and it turns into like an actual piece of food, right? So, but when I eat that, it has a tremendous amount of potassium, right? Tamarind is something I have regularly too, and a bunch of other fruits like mangoes and watermelons. Like I have a pretty diverse diet, but my palate has gotten back to its natural state. I enjoy eating those foods, right? That's a wide variety of foods that I just gave you, and people will claim that it's boring, but you know, I keep things simple, and I can tell you it's delicious. I'm not like, oh, I'm missing out. Like you could eat a steak in front of me and I won't even bat an eye. You know, like I'm enjoying my food and it's very good. But it's not even just that, because I am so up in health in regards to priority. I would be willing, even if that diet that I follow didn't taste good and it wasn't pleasing, if it made me perform at my best and it was the healthiest option, I would still do it. I would be willing to make that sacrifice if it was necessary. Now, thankfully, it's not. Everything I eat is delicious. Same thing with fruit. I mean, God, I love fruit, dude. Like mangoes and watermelons. Like I could eat that shit all day, every day. I love it. Same thing with some of these vegetables, but it's a simple diet, man. You know, if people want to hit me up, you know, I'm more than welcome to share. I've shared stuff on YouTube, but you know, it clashes a lot because I get people have their beliefs, whatever. Like I'm not here to tell you what to do. You know, I can show you my blood work, I can show you the results, and they speak for themselves. But you know, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I don't really care.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's a lot of different, depending on who is answering that question, there are a ton of different diets and different ideas as far as peak performance. But you know, because I personally have witnessed how you have grown your business and how you've also just grown yourself as a person so much. Even I started following you about 5 years ago and just seeing like this evolution. And when it comes to that, I'm always thinking about what should people put in their body for that peak performance. So I appreciate you sharing candidly what you do, even if it's something that I'm sure whoever's listening to this is probably gonna be
Extreme. Like if I'm gonna wrap it up, dude, I would just tell people incorporate one thing, do some fasting, fast for 24 hours, fast for 48 hours. I just did one with Alex and gang, and we did 3-4 days. I did 4 days, and man, once I started eating again, my body just feels like it's a rocket. Like my muscles are getting more pumped. Like my skin is real tight. I was even taking videos. I'm like, dude, I'm ripped up. I could fucking step on stage for like a bodybuilding show. And even though I'm not as swole as them, I have good muscle bellies. I'm very ripped. Like I'm sub 10% body fat year round. I'm still very athletic. I'm 37 and I perform better than people half my age. So, but try fasting and you'll start to see. And when you go through these symptoms of not feeling good, it's your body detoxing. It's not a sign that it's not working. That's your body detoxing. And I know you had a similar experience with that, Alex.
And for me, going 72 hours, which was, you know, no, 75 hours, and then I decided to cave in and eat the watermelon. But 75 hours of fasting for me was one of the best things I've ever done for myself. It was such a good way to get rid of all this bad energy. And you know, I found that I was feeling more grounded, and time was going by slower, and I was wanting to make the most of every minute, to the point of where, especially now as I'm working on losing a little bit of weight, I'm probably going to be implementing this a lot more. Not just for the weight loss and vanity reasons, but for the cleansing of the body, for the mental clarity. And it's just such a great way to recenter yourself.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it brings you back to here and now versus
Yeah.
getting caught up in the grind and social media and being lost, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And now I know we both have to get going. What I did want to wrap this up with, where can people find you if they don't know you, or how to find you? How can they get access to you?
Yeah, you know, Instagram I think is the best place, although it may take me some time to dig through the DMs and get back to you. That's a good place to message me. bryancasella.com, bryancasellacoaching.com is where I have all my stuff. All my events are typically posted on Team BC, like Bryan Casella, teambcevents.com. I got another one coming up in Miami this next Friday coming up, where I'm just going to start doing, these events and these webinars. But you can find my stuff. You just really got to Google me. I know I've been kind of shunned on social media with the whole demonetization stuff, but I'm still out there and you can find me, right? All my profiles have links and all that stuff that you can find.
Yeah, I think you're the one and only Bryan with a Y Casella, or at least you Google Bryan with a Y and your last name. I'm pretty sure it's only you that pops up. So that's always a safe bet.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing so many amazing insights and your wisdom. I know that this is going to be something that's going to help a ton of people, and I really appreciate you for that.